everyone, my name is Andrea and I'm from Mexico. So 2 months ago, a politician was killed. He got beheaded and was put into the car, which is like something you only see in movies. The government caught like a super big cartel member, and sometime after that, he went out of jail, like he escaped from jail. Some Mexicans think like this subculture is helping more than the government itself. And I'm really sad that like a lot of people recognize Mexico because these kind of things happen really often. I've been asked quite a lot about the gangs in Mexico, which actually we do not call it gangs, we call it cartel. We have many cartels and many people involved in it that it has become like a subculture for Mexico. And it's quite sad to admit, but actually the government is being criticized for being part of it or involved with some of these cartels. Which, disclaimer, I do not know about it, but it's like what we heard in the news and what it's talked in my country. The past years, a lot of politicians have been killed during elections, actually. Some people have said like, if you're not gonna be in acquaintance or like involved or in agreement with the cartel of the region or the state, you may have problems with the cartels in that area. So also people have been said in Mexico during the campaigns, some of the politicians in power were like sponsored by some cartels. So it's quite often to hear this, like, oh, he got into the power, but like behind all of that, they have this cartel supporting them. Oh yeah, quite often. Like this happens, we call it peleando la plaza. And even the news, if you watch the news in Mexico, there will always be like, oh, these two cartels are fighting for the area. And some people say that depending on which cartel you are like helping or like supporting, if you're gonna be on the power or not. And sometimes it's not because they want to, it's because they have been forced. Sometimes like you have like your own small like business, a cartel member comes and there's like, oh, you have to pay me 10,000 pesos per month and you need to do it. So people start feeling like not safe having like their own businesses. But yeah, sometimes I've seen people in the news that they close their business because of that, because they cannot support like the payment each month. There was a president in Mexico openly said like, we're gonna fight the carteles. So since that day, it's been like trying to get better, and they caught a lot of members from carteles because there are too many in Mexico. So sometimes in the news you will hear like, oh, they got this super famous cartel like member from this one and from that and from there. It's a fun story that we caught, the government caught like a super big cartel member, and sometime after that, he went out of jail, like he escaped from jail. And he was like free all these years, and a few years ago, like he was caught from Interpol actually, and he's now in the United States. So what people in Mexico think is like the government is not really doing enough. Some Mexicans think like this subculture is helping more than the government itself. For example, in some cities of Sinaloa, where like there was when the cartels were invented, they pray like the cartels, because if a city didn't have like water, for the city, they say some cartels like help to put all the installations and everything. If road was not made like from the government, they say like, yeah, but this cartel help us and like build the rail. There's also like music related in this subculture, like corridos in Mexico is a certain way of traditional music in Mexico, right? So now there's like narco corridos. So they talk about the boss of the cartel, especially in the 80s and the 90s. Like I think a lot of subculture with the music was going on. And I know anyone in Mexico at least knows one song related to the cartels. So, for example, also we have like Narcos in Netflix. I saw the Netflix. So it said like this boss, cartel boss, like did like a surgical transformation so no one will find him. So it's like what people say, right? So that like he kept living out of the side because he transformed himself into another person. And also Chapo Guzman, which is the one who was translated to the United States. And he's still in the major security. I think this culture has been in Mexico for decades. So, and some people ask me like all around the world, like, if it's safe to go to Mexico, like I've heard these things, like this story is going on. And I feel like it's as any other country. As you go into really public places, or if you go in a tour or with someone who knows about the country, you will be okay because no one will take you to an unsafe place. You know what I mean? But I think it's bad, and it's like so sad when I hear other people saying like, not everything you heard in the media is true, and it's like portrayed in a different way. So if you ask me, I will say it's safe for people from other countries to go to Mexico. Of course, people always look out for Cancun. You can still enjoy like the beautiful beaches that are in Mexico. Puerto Vallarta, Oaxaca, Baja California. There's a lot of beautiful places. Of course, just take your precautions as you will do in any other country. But yeah, you should come to Mexico. For me, as a Mexican, I'm not proud to talk about cartels, but it's a reality in Mexico. So if you're interested in learning more about cartels in Mexico, because I've heard and I've learned a lot through this series on Netflix. I don't know if it's like totally true, and I know they probably put like a lot of romance and a lot of stuff, but at least it's like part of my culture and part of my history that I've known. So from what I've heard from people, it's a lot of people trying to speak Spanish right now and want to learn Spanish. Like one of the recommendations that I've heard is to start listening to Spanish more often. And what I've heard is like people start looking at these cartel series or cartel TV shows. So if you're more interested of learning like this subculture in Mexico, maybe that will be a good Spanish like recommendation to learn. Like especially the Mexican Spanish, because it's so much different in every country.